Eric Averill, and I'm joined by my partner, Brandon Averill. Today,
Disclaimer: Eric Averill and Brandon Averill are the co-founders of AWM Capital. Due to industry regulations, it's essential to explicitly state that investment or strategies mentioned on this podcast may not be suitable for you, and you should discuss your specific situation with a qualified, certified financial planner. All opinions expressed by podcast participants are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of AWM Capital or its affiliates. For more information, visit athleteceo.com.
high performance. Succeeding beyond the average norms consistently over the long term. High performance is something that we all want to achieve, yet we can't do that last part, being consistent over the long term, without being healthy. Yet when talking to entrepreneurs, founders, and even athletes, that's the one area that few have mastered. Enter David Freeman, the national brand manager of Alpha Training. David is a former Division I football player and is now considered one of the elite high-performance trainers in the United States. And David's on a mission to help you get your mind right and your body right. David challenges the conventional thought process around the words health, wellness, and what it means to be alpha. David believes that each and every one of us has the ability to live a purpose-driven life full of both joy and energy, and that we can achieve high performance. I'm excited for you guys to listen in to this episode, because whether you're the professional athlete looking just to gain the next edge, or you're the entrepreneur who knows that you can no longer ignore your health, this episode is full of practical and effective information that you can implement right away. David has had a profound impact on both my life and my wife's life, the way that we think about high performance and health. So I know that you guys are going to love this conversation with my friend, my mentor, my coach, and my leader, David Freeman.
David, thanks for being on the Athlete CEO podcast. I'm excited for a few different reasons. First, just because of our personal connection of when we met when Sadie and I ventured into one of your gyms a few years back, but just also what you're leading at Lifetime Fitness, that you're the national brand manager of Alpha Training, really one of the fastest growing pieces of Lifetime. So thanks for being on the show today.
I'm excited to be on the show and excited to connect back with you. We've always stayed in contact, whether it was via social media or little text here and there. So I'm excited to be a part of the show today.
Great. Well, a place that I thought we would start is, this is the Athlete CEO podcast, and your background is as an athlete, both at the collegiate level and then professional experience kind of overseas. And fill us in a little bit, bring our audience up to speed of just your football playing background and where it took you. And it's a nice natural transition and, really what started you in the fitness industry.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Played football, ran track there ever since, I would say, 8, 9 years old. Got real competitive middle and high school. Played at 71st High School in Fayetteville, ended up landing a scholarship to University of Richmond. Full scholarship there, where I played for 4 years. Became a captain on the team there. And when coming into University of Richmond, we came into a winning program. So I was really excited of the winning program. I had great coaches and great athletes all around me that just helped elevate my game and everything that I brought to the table. My freshman year was our first losing season. And to be frank, all the way into my senior year, we had losing season. Became a captain my senior year along with 3 other captains. And we literally took the team underneath our wings, and we ended up getting a winning season, going into the second round to play our conference and everything. And it was a pivotal turning point for me from a leadership standpoint. It kind of put me me understand exactly what it was to be a leader and wanted to do a little bit more within the field. So after graduating, I went overseas. I played in the Europe and Denmark and France. I learned a lot about myself over there because I was alone. It was a language barrier. So it was a lot of isolated or just reading and self-development. So that was probably one of the deepest connections that I had with myself, and finding out what my purpose was when I was overseas.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting point that you talked about, just being a captain on your team in college, coming from having a few losing seasons and then being able to turn it around is, as we know, in a lot of our experience, captains are usually, I don't want to say it's easy when you're on a winning team, but it's one of those situations. A lot of times it's like, well, he's just the best performer on a team that's kind of crushing it. You really had a challenge to change a culture. What were some of those leadership principles that you pulled out of that experience?
Yeah, so we had 4 captains, and each one of us served a different role. And that was the amazing part about our leadership is there wasn't one face to leadership. There were multiple faces to it. So each captain served a purpose. We had Stacey Tutt. He was more of the leader that led by example. He was our quarterback. He was a freak athlete. He did amazing things. So when he spoke, people listened, of course. We had Brian Burnett. He was a person who just shot you the straightness of if you didn't do something right or you sucked at something, he would just shoot it to you straight. So he was amazing for just keeping it real with you. John Romowski, and he was awesome because he was more of that mediator. So when people probably were up in tussles about whatever it may be in a disagreement, he kind of mediated the situation and brought everybody back down to earth. Served as a purpose as far as what I would call like a maximizer. I was able to tap into individuals, bring the most out of them, motivate them, and make these connections, whether it was on offense or defense. So we all served a different purpose, and I think that's what spoke volumes to the team to allow us to become part of a winning season that year.
Yeah. Cool. So you go overseas, you mentioned the language barrier. I've listened to a few of your other interviews and podcasts, and you said it was movement and music that are kind of the universal languages across sports or cultures. Talk a little bit about that love for movement and how that translated into you, helping find your passion for fitness.
Yeah, so while I was over in front of the big things that the athletes around, the coaches around me noticed was just like, man, this dude is moving some weight. He's pretty fast. He's outrunning a lot of our 10. How can we replicate that to the other individuals on the field? So once again, we had a language barrier, but the one thing that is universal, what you just said, is movement, whether it's dancing or simply just gestures that we have with our bodies can say a lot. So I was able to coach a lot through movement, and in return, it showed on the field. People also got stronger in the weight room. We started winning games. So that's when I started falling in love with helping and connecting individuals to what they wanted to do in life. And that kind of transitioned me into the field that I'm in now within the fitness industry.
Yeah. So you come back to the States, you go back home. I love listening to one of the interviews. You said that you went to an interview, didn't get the job, and you just drove down the street to a different gym and interviewed and ended up getting the job. I mean, talk through that. Obviously, that's just an example of your persistence and kind of having a vision for knowing what you're doing. Talk to us about, where you started as a trainer.
Yeah, so I got in the fitness industry in 2008, and I went to my first job interview. I've had a job before within my whole life, but this was the actual interview process, and it was a little nerve-wracking because I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. But I went in there, dressed the part, all the questions. I had a 3-part case study that I had to come back with, and at the end of the final interview, the manager told me at the time, it was just like, hey, I don't think you'll be a good fit for our team, but thank you for your time, and so on and so forth. And I left out of that interview, and this was the first time in my whole life at the age of 2 that I was not picked on a team or not selected. Yeah. So it was a chip on my shoulder. I was like, what the heck? Like, what didn't I say right? What did I do right? And then in the back of my mind, I was like, man, I know what I can do. I know what I'm capable of doing. So I went down the road, same company, 5 minutes down the road, and same dress clothes that I had. And I went in there within probably 5 to 10 minutes of the interview. The person that I was being interviewed by was the regional manager, and he hired me within literally 10 minutes. He said, "You're hired." So the irony of all that is one, persist, you said, but if you know what you're capable of doing and what you could bring to the table, everybody might not be able to see it, or they might just not connect to what it is that you're trying to do. But that doesn't mean that you should shy away from what it is that you should be doing in life. And that's why I'm huge on that whole purpose-driven focus.
Yeah. So, it was originally not a lifetime gym, right? From how I understand it. And then that was another opportunity just for growth. Obviously, you've got a big corporate company comes in, acquires your gym. Walk us through that process.
Yeah, man, I just got married. It was 2011. 11/11/11, I married my wife, Michelle. And what happened was in November, we were on our honeymoon, and I got a call from one of my clients, and they said, "Hey, did you see the email, the news that Lifetime acquired Lifestyle Family Fitness?" So that was the company I was working for 2008 to 2011. And you imagine with acquisitions, changes, and everything, it's kind of nerve-wracking. So you don't know what's about to happen. But I always heard great things about Lifetime. It was a club. I went there a few times with Lifestyle just to see what it was all about, and understand who our competitors were in the market. So I saw a lot of great things. And the amazing thing was it was courage for me because, one, a lot of the resources that are offered within Lifetime, I was already doing with Lifestyle, but I was sending it out to a third party. A person needed to get testing for metabolics, I send them over to Meredith College. If they need to get a heart rate monitor, I send them over to Dick's. Supplements, I send them to GNC. So now all that was under one roof. So it was amazing to me because it was a company that aligned to a lot of the values that I had within what I felt was needed to help a person not only be fit, but actually healthy. So it was an amazing marriage, like I said, and I hit the ground running once I understood what the company was about and learned the core values of the company. It really sat well with me and allowed me to kind of accelerate a lot within my group, the company.
Right. So that, that speeds up to, they tap you to run this pilot program called Alpha in Scottsdale. And that's where Sadie and I meet you. And I think something for my background, coming from being a former professional athlete, you're always kind of leery of gyms. Right. And, I'd kind of tiptoed into the CrossFit world, per se, and there's a stigma when you're a professional athlete of these type of movements and training. So, and just rightfully so, it's a little bit more pricey, right? And so going in with expectations of the unknown, what blew me away about Alpha and the culture that you had created, and it's why Sadie's still there crushing it and training, and she drives 35 minutes to go to that gym, was something that was so unique about you is it just wasn't about only the physical training. It was something very compelling right away that here you guys were pushing us on discovering purpose and goals. And a lot of places say that they do that, but it's really kind of like, hey, you should have some goals, but I don't really care. And that's what really stood out to me was your passion for that. Can you talk about your dedication to this purpose-driven life?
Yeah, that all started with at home, with my parents. It was no excuses accepted. You have the opportunity to do all the things that you put your mind to. So my parents instilled that in me at an early age. It was like, you don't have to do anything is what they always said. They say you have the opportunity and you get to do a lot of these things. So understand the privilege of what you have day in and day out. And that's the same type of mentality that I've carried to any and everybody that I come in contact with. So going back to that strength of being a maximizer is I am coaching people within the realms of fitness, yes, but in a sense, what I'm really is I'm coaching to life habits and great habits that they should have that go beyond the four walls of lifetime. So when you look at that full picture, okay, yeah, you're going to be a better husband. You're going to be a better wife, better, father and mother. You're going to be better at your job because you have that mentality of, this is what I get to do. This is the opportunity I get to touch X amount of lives and change lives. So I think if people have that outlook on things, it just makes the world as a whole a better place.
Yeah. So let's park there for a second, because you've got listeners on this that are professional athletes, and they understand the importance of the physical game, because at the end of the day, this is their biggest asset. It's how they make money. Or you even have an entrepreneur founders that are listening that, they understand the importance of a healthy lifestyle, that I need to care for my body to be able to do my job. But one thing that you always say is mind right, body right. And talk about that, because the mind, it's more than just, hey, did I get in the gym at 5:30 and go through the motions? Talk about what that level of the next kind of high performance is when it comes to the mind game.
That separates the good from the great, to be honest. And any and everything that you think of, what that inch or that second or whatever it is, the mentality, the grit, and the fortitude of an individual taking themselves to the next level is the mindset. So if you go into anything, perception is everything, right? So if you go into anything, you say this workout's going to suck, or this is not going to be good, and guess what? It's not going to be good. You have to have a winning mentality regardless of the outcome. So if you get last place, that's not failure, right? Failure doesn't necessarily exist. What that is an experience that you get to learn from, right? So whoever it is, whether you're a professional athlete or entrepreneur, you guys know as well, it's the same thing. You are learning daily. You're going to fail multiple times, and that's great learning experiences. And what you learn from that experience is what not to do or how to make something better. So I always look at that opportunities, and I always preach that as saying, guys, look at whenever you come up short of something, guess what? You just got stronger more mentally, in the sense of now you know how to approach it next.
Yeah. From a really practical standpoint, I'd love to hear maybe some practices or recommendations of how to change that mindset, because it's sometimes it could be that theoretical, like, hey, you've got to have the right mental game. But for someone who hasn't done it for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, how do you start to change that mindset, or just, even start that process?
Well, the first is starting with self. Like you need to write down 3 objectives, and it doesn't have to be fitness related or health related, like objectives that you want to accomplish. All right. I want to be a better father. I want to, be a better husband. I want to run a marathon, whatever it may be. Write down those 3 objectives. Now you have something to kind of hold yourself accountable to. Then you want to share those objectives with another individual that's going to hold you accountable to those objectives. So when you write something down, you're 2 times more likely to do it. And then when you share it with somebody, you're 3 times more likely to do it. So that would be the start. Then you want to surround yourself other people that are going to push you towards whatever those objectives are. So when you listen to all those things, one, you started with self, then you ended up connecting that self objective to somebody that you know is going to hold you accountable, usually your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, or whoever it may be, best friend. Now you now push that out into a community of individuals, family, friends that are going to hold you accountable. That is going to strengthen the mindset of keeping you in the course, because there's going to be a day that you're going to be like, I do not feel like doing this. And guess what? Your husband or wife or your family and friends are going to be like, nope, David, you said you're going to be doing this, so you need to go out there and do it. And you need that push, because sometimes self is not enough. If you can find an excuse to sit down and not do anything, you probably are. So you need that supportive cast. You need to have clear objectives of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And then I think that's your recipe for success right there.
Yeah. Something that you used to push us on when we were training underneath you was you know, I remember coming in with a specific goal that, hey, I want to end up benching X amount. And that's because coming from a pitcher, I never got to touch a bench press, but you'd always ask why, like, why is that important? And talk about why maybe some of the surface goals you see people fail at so quickly because maybe there's not much substance behind it. How do you help people find things that actually stick?
Yeah, just to what you just said, I asked the question why. So, okay, once the bench press goal, or once you achieve the loss of the 5 pounds, guess what? You're going to want more. So there's no happiness goal. I think sometimes people try to find happiness within the goal. And I got this from Ben Bergeron, great coach to World, and he actually pointed out what happiness is defined within 3 elements. One, being gratitude, you know, being grateful for the people that you have in your life. So gratitude is being number 1 within the happiness realm. Then number 2 is making sure that you give back. This is not monetary value. This is like literally giving back, reciprocation or reciprocity of life. So giving back to individuals and not expecting to get anything back once you give back. And then the last one is deep, meaningful relationships. And the analogy that was given was when you go over to a third world country and you see these kids that have very little to no resources, no money whatsoever, but they're happy and they're not thinking of anything else but just smiling and having fun within the moment. And you can look over here in the States and people a buttload of money and be strung out on drugs and ODing on things. So I think we associate a lot of our happiness to the means of money. And we're looking at that as associated to success. So I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I think our focal point should not be, I want to get this bench press and I want to get these 5 pounds off. Okay, that's the surface, but what's the why? And I think if we dive deeper into understanding what the why is, then it starts to uncover a lot of other things. And then if they know what that why is, and that becomes the main objective there.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think you just hit on so many different things for us. And in a regular basis, we manage people's money, right? And what we talk about is for most of our clients, money's no longer even an issue, which totally is a huge benefit. Mm-hmm. Money can be used for a good thing, but it very quickly becomes clear that it doesn't produce that happiness. And so there's got to be more that's driving you from a purpose situation. And one of the other aspects, or I would say pitfalls that I see in the fitness industry is, talk to me about kind of like body image issues and just when you have clients come in and it's a very vain kind of goal or situation, how do you break that down? How do you address that?
Yeah, you see it a lot. You see a lot of body shaming, or the world is now classified as what aesthetically is pleasing, what is fit, based off of these models and things of this nature. But in all reality, what is good for you and healthy? That should be the forefront of objectives and goals. So it's not about the 6-pack, right? It's not about the 300-pound bench. It's literally, how's your cholesterol? How's your heart rate? How's your body fat? Like, are you in a healthy state? Can you think clearly? Is your mental focus good? Are you sleeping good? Are you not stressed? When you look at all those factors, those are the things that matter. Are you happy? And guess what? If all those things are in line, okay, now we can kind of hit on these other surface value things that society has classified as success, if you will. But the success in my eyes is are you happy? Are you in a good state of mind? And are you living life to the fullest? That should be the main focal point. It shouldn't be the things that we're focused on aesthetically.
Yeah, that's good. Kind of staying on some specific advice, and this is more for the entrepreneur really non-professional athlete. You know, for us that go to work every day, Monday through Saturday or Monday through Friday, and there's that tension of time, right? It's, I've got family, I've got work, I've got all these things. And we're in what I call like a microwave society. We wish things that we could press a button and boom, we're in good shape. Talk to me about what advice you have for the founders and entrepreneurs of what type of training should they be doing? What does a healthy lifestyle look like? You know, should they all be at an alpha gym, or should they all be doing CrossFit? Is yoga right? Is it, you know, like there's so many options today that I think there's a paralysis by analysis sometimes. If you were sitting in a room full of entrepreneurs and they said, you know, what should we be doing? What's some advice you'd give them?
So what I would do if I was in a room with a whole bunch of individuals, what I would do is I'll end up helping direct them into where they should go. So I probably would say, okay, is your objective going to be performance? Is your objective going to be health? Is your objective going to be, I just want to do the same thing I'm doing now 10 years from now? Like, and then let them kind of divvy out basically based off that. Okay, since you want to look at performance, this is what performance looks like. Health looks like this. I want to have longevity and vitality over here. So now that they kind of have a forefront of, okay, I'm categorized within this is what I want to do, the next steps would be kind of customizing the programming based off of their needs. When you look at Alpha, we cater to a lot of different fitness levels, and we are able to regress and progress accordingly. And that's the level of coaching that we kind of provide within Alpha and the expectations that we put there. You being at Alpha, you kind of have seen the different fitness levels, whether the person is 18 or the person is 62, we're able to kind of cater to all those different fitness levels. Now, our main piece within Alpha is exactly all three of those elements that I just mentioned: performance, health, longevity, and vitality. And the way we arrive there is we make sure we connect with the individual and say, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? If they give us the means of, I want to look this way, I want to lose this, okay, why is the next question that we follow up with? And then we kind of set out a game plan for 30, 60, 90 days, and we reevaluate so we can kind of hold them accountable to a lot of the things that we wrote down.
Yeah. And like you said, I've been, you know, fortunate to be a part of the Alpha community and to see everybody from, you know, the mom who's just coming out of pregnancy to, you know, I remember working out with the guy who was in his 60s to one of the coaches, right, who's in the CrossFit Games this week. And so it's pretty unique when you actually see a company be able to execute on multiple things. And how you guys specialize on an individual plan within group fitness that's like the perfect recipe and very difficult to accomplish. And so it's been cool to see that they put you in charge of this essentially test pilot group in Arizona, and it's exploded, and you've taken it now across the country. Talk a little bit about, you know, how it's gone from one standalone location to who is Alpha today.
Yeah, so when it started as the whole pilot concept in Scottsdale, Arizona as a standalone, we wanted to show like just proof of concept there, right? And obviously the brand itself is nothing without the members and the performers. And I always use this analogy with Nike and LeBron James is Nike's a mega brand, right? And when you look at LeBron James, he's a major figure. And I always tell people, I'm like, why do you think a Nike will go to LeBron? Because they know how much he as a performer will elevate their brand. And that's the same thing when we look at for our athletes and especially our coaches, our performers, is you guys elevate the brand. So the way the brand has grown so fast is literally the education, the performers doing what is needed to elevate the experience, to make sure that you guys are taken care of. And now we are over 130 clubs. We have over 17,000 participants within our team suite as far as programs. And we're touching on so many different lives and changing so many different people's futures as far as what they're trying to do. And we even have people now wanting to become alpha coaches, man. So just seeing this from a bird's eye view and knowing what it started as and now to see where it's going, it's amazing. We have partnerships with highly credentialed USAW weightlifting certification. Once again, it's rewarding, but at the same time, it's a humbling experience, and it's exciting to see how quickly we've grown in these past 2 years.
Yeah. That's a good little just segue into a conversation about leadership. I think a lot of times you'll see in different industries, you might have someone who's a really good technician. So you could have been, just a really competent, good coach without the vision to be able to lead really a company, right? Coaching other coaches, running the business side of scaling. And now here you are overseeing, new alphas opening up and managing brand and doing all of that. Can you talk about just your mindset of how you approach leadership?
Yeah, I go back to how I was coached, and I try to implement a lot of those things. And I know everybody is different within, let's say, our love language, right? Like some people might love to hear great things, the words of affirmation. Some people like to have more of that intimate setting of, I need you to walk me through this. It's being a chameleon. Like listening is key. Like I talk when I need to talk, but I don't talk a lot when it comes to when somebody needs help. I'm listening a whole bunch, and then I pretty much reiterate everything that they do. I just make sure I say it back to them to make sure I heard it correctly, and then I create a plan based off of what it is that they need. So I think we get so much done when we talk less and listen more, because that's the only way you're going to accomplish the goal of what it is that the person is trying to do. I mean, this goes beyond coaching. This is marriage. This is life, right? So we were so quick to have a response, and instead of actually like taking it all in, like have that dramatic pause. You just asked me a question. Let me actually marinate on that a little bit. Okay, so this is what you're saying. Like when you do that, I guarantee the conversation and the ROI is so much better, or I should say ROR, return on relationship, is so much better that you're going to get so much more from that individual.
Yeah, I'm glad that you hit on it, because you had said it in another one of your interviews that I'd listened to was the return on relationships, and talk about that approach, especially when you're a leader. You've got people underneath you, and I've been around you. You're obviously a fun-loving guy, but I've seen you when you come in. You're a serious dude. You're a physically intimidating guy. Especially as you're opening up gyms and doing certifications, I'm sure you're walking into situations where there's some insecurity, like here comes the boss. Yet it seems like you win people over pretty quickly. Talk about that return on relationship.
Yeah, I break down that barrier. The first thing I do is, I break open that smile. Like the smile itself is inviting. I'm not talking about my smile. I'm talking about smiling to individuals in general is very inviting. And just asking them about, hey, what'd you do this week? Like break down the barriers, let them know that you're there to help. It's still, I guess, in general, can always be intimidating because the perception of the level of who you are. But I'm in the field for a reason. I'm out there in the field for a reason, to connect with individuals. And I come from the field, so I can empathize and relate. So that's a strength in itself. It's very hard to connect to somebody if you've never been in their shoes. So it's that much easier for me when I go into a grand opening club. I've been part of a grand opening club. When I coach an alpha class, I coach alpha classes. When I speak to the alpha programming, this is what we've created as a unit. So it comes easy to me. And I think that aura, that energy is felt by whoever it is that I'm coming in contact with. And in my eyes, obviously, it would be easier for somebody else to kind of speak and say what exactly they're feeling whenever I'm around them. But in my eyes, I think that's what makes that connection so easy.
Yeah. What would you say, making that jump from being more of just a coach to now overseeing being in a lot more of the leadership management positions? What are some of the challenges that you had to overcome?
Oh man, I look at it as opportunities. It was new things that I got to learn. So the one thing I made sure, I said, hey, I'm good with being in this role, but I have to be able to coach a few classes. I got to be able to stay close to the heartbeat to understand exactly how the body's working. So I would say the opportunities, not so much the challenges. The opportunities I see is how to make our education more scalable, that it's not cookie cutter. It's structured autonomy, if you will. So we give you the blueprint of exactly what it is that Alpha is and what makes us different. And now you as the coach, how do you bring that to life? How do you allow that brand to grow within your club? Being that we grow so fast, it's like, all right, we just ended up fine-tuning something, and then boom, 2 other new clubs are opening, and now we have to go do that again. So just making sure we're staying ahead of the game and making sure that the education is cutting edge and it makes sense for somebody to believe in it and actually speak it to the masses.
Yeah. So I think this is true of, all of our listeners that are founders, entrepreneurs. Most high-performing people are avid personal development people, right? We love reading podcasts, those type of things. Is there anything interesting that you turn to for your education as far as leadership development or just kind of handling people? What are your go-to resources right now?
Oh man, I would say my foundation still goes back to Strength Finders. It starts with you. So understanding what your top 5 strengths are. So by Tom Rath, Strength Finders 2.0. It's a quick and easy test you can do. And when you see exactly what it is that are your top 5, that's how you like to be coached. That's how you like to be, spoken to. And the close second would be the love languages. I think that still plays a vital role, whether it's in your relationship or even in your field of business, because once again, your Strength Finders, these are your strengths. These are the things you're great at. And in your love languages, this is how you like to be coached, if you will, or how you like to be, spoken to. So if you know more about yourself, that helps out, because now you can convey that to whoever it is that you're connecting with. And then that's going to allow whoever it is, your business partner, your clients, your spouses, like if you're able to convey that message, clear communication, that's half the battle right there. Clear communication is all and everything in my book. You got a clear vision, you have, all the bells and whistles, but if you're not able to convey that, it's lost in the sauce. So I think if you can own those 2 different things, Strength Finders and love languages, marry those 2 different things together, clearly communicate out what it is that you're trying to accomplish and how you like to be coached. I think that's the foundation for a lot of things.
Oh, two totally great resources and super helpful. I've actually never heard kind of pulling those 2 together, but it makes a lot of sense. For you, what I love is you can resonate with our listeners in the sense of you've got a vision for what you're trying to accomplish for your life. But it's not just you. You've got an unbelievable wife. You have 2 kids. It's talk about that, just navigating that balance, right? Is everybody, I think that's the special sauce, or, what everybody desires. How do you and your wife attack that?
Yeah, that's the foundation for sure, guys. Family first. That's your biggest support, backbone, everything. So you're not anything without your family. Let's be clear there. The balancing act is art, but it goes back to communication. Me and my wife, we always laugh about it, but at the same time, I always tell her, she was like, man, you're like my dad, in a joking way. But I always tell her, I'm like, hey, if you just clearly tell me what it is that we're doing this week or how we're going about it, life is so much easier. My pet peeve is finding out things at the last minute because you have to juggle so many things already. And when you add 2 kids into the mix, it could be a whirlwind. So, the balancing act is clear communication, making sure you both are on the same page, and you got to support one another. And you got to understand sometimes you got to take the back burner, and it's not a bad thing because you're a team. And the stronger the team is, the stronger the family is. So your spouse, your wife or husband, definitely that's your foundation. You guys got to be on each other's team. The kids, obviously, you're doing a lot of these things for the setup of them. You want to give them everything you never had or didn't have as resources. You want to give them the best life, but at the same time, you teach them about work ethic. And don't get me wrong, any and everything that my father and mother taught me, you better believe that they're going to get a taste of that too. But it's our opportunity to lead, and it comes from both the husband and the wife to show the way. So I would say clear communication, being on the same page, and a strong supporting cast. Yeah,
I love your emphasis on treating the family unit as a team, because so often what we see, and I know I've been guilty in my life, is that sometimes it can feel like, you're running your own journey and your spouse and the rest of the family is just kind of along for the ride. And very frankly, hey, that's not a journey I want to be on. Right. And so I think going back to that communication and supporting one another, and it's really important to have that. We always talk about, the enemy's out there, it's not inside the house. And so getting on that same page is really important. Talking some really practical stuff for your life. Walk us through, your morning routine. How do you set your day up for success?
Yeah. So when I wake up with about a good 10 minutes of meditation at the edge of the bed. And I know we can classify meditation as with mala beads and, chimes and stuff, but it's literally just alone time, me just focusing on the forefront of what my day is, what my purpose is, and making sure that I'm aligned to that, and sending out prayers to those who need it. That's my foundation as far as when I wake up within my first 10 minutes. Then obviously the routine, brushing the teeth, giving the kids and wife, they're still asleep because it's 3:50 a.m. right now when I'm getting up. Yeah. So giving them kisses and going on about my day to go train folks. On my way to the club, my podcast, huge on Chasing Excellence, once again, with Ben Bergeron. I love a lot of the content that he pushes out. And just, once again, self-development. Sometimes it might just be no music on, windows down, and just observing what's around me. So that's key. And then every life that I get to touch, make the most out of it. You might have only 5 minutes or 1 minute with a person, make it the best 1 minute or 5 minutes of their life, so they can now take that energy and pass it on to somebody else. So that's kind of my routine that I try to stay consistent with daily.
That's great. This is, we ask a few regular questions on this podcast, talking to high performers. And one of the things that I would love to ask you, based in this industry of health and wellness, is what's some advice that is out there in the industry that's just flat out bad advice that people should ignore?
Yeah, man, I would say, it's a throw up, to be honest, with a lot of different things. Nutrition and quick fixes. For weight loss, I'll focus on that one. That's one that we constantly hear. A lot of times people are looking for the quick fix, and I always ask the question, how long did it take you to put on the weight? Did it take you, 60 days or 90 days to put on 15 pounds? And the answer usually is no. It took me 2-3 years that I put on this weight. So I always ask the question, I said, okay, so what changed? Obviously behaviors, I'm working more, I'm at a desk job. Okay. So now that we understand the changes, I go back to, it took you it took you 2 to 3 years to put on 15 pounds. So why do you think you should be able to lose it in 2 to 3 months? And not to say you can't, but I'm trying to do it the right way. And your body is probably going to be challenged in these next 2 to 3 months to do that. So baby steps, just keeping it, realistic with them. You can always set the goals and the objectives. That's fine. Put a timetable to it. That's fine. But the myth of being able to have these quick fixes, I would say, just stop doing that. Educate our clients and our members of how to do it the right way. So incentivize them through good behavior, sleep, nutrition. That's how. And I think we focus so much on the working out piece. And the reality is this: you work out 5 days a week, that's 5 hours out of your whole week, right? There's 168 hours in a week. So you worked out 5 of those 168. The 163 that nobody's talking about is what we really need to focus on. But when we don't hit the results, guess what? They're going to blame you for those 5 hours. Granted, the 163 should be the focal point.
Oh man, that's so good right there. That's just brutal honesty. We want to blame the 5, but not the 163. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
One of the other things that we've been talking a lot about recently is just, understanding the importance of how you use your platform for influence and for power and for impact. And this is speaking both to the professional athlete and to the entrepreneur of, can you talk about the responsibility that you think that we have on how to use our influence to impact others?
Yeah, man, it's a big role. And a lot of people always say, well, who said I want to be a role model? I think you hear people, I don't want to be a role model. The reality is, and I can't remember what athlete said this, but they were like, you're a real model, you're a real person. So therefore people see realness day in and day out. So granted, you don't want to be in that light. The thing is, you were put into this light for a reason. And that's why I say you need to go back to what your foundation is and who you are as a person. If you really identify with that, then you understand the significance of whatever you put out there on a post or whatever content that you're doing. And if you don't want to be in that role, then I understand, but it's just your influence is your influence. So if you're posting and people look up to you and they inspire or aspire to be like you, hey, that's what happens. You got to be able just to understand the magnitude of who we are and the platform that we're on. We're on a stage and people are watching us perform daily. They're watching your every single move. So granted, you might not want to be in the role. You're in this role for a reason, and that's the realness and that's the reality of our life. So just be aware is what I would say, and go back to that core foundation of who you are. And what my mom would always say is, would you do it in front of your kids, or would you do it in front of your wife? So if the answer is no, then that's a good test, litmus test right there to figure out if you should be doing it.
Yeah, great litmus test. A few more questions. One of the other things that a lot of our listeners have been faced with, and if they haven't yet, it's coming guaranteed, is this transition from sports, where your career is going to end, whether you're, Derek Jeter or Michael Jordan, or just someone who has a college career and never gets that opportunity to fulfill that childhood dream. Talk about that transition. What advice would you give to the athletes that are still playing of how to prepare for that?
Man, yeah, I'll speak from my personal experience, and I'll speak from my wife's, because it is challenging. I mean, this is what we've done for majority of our life. Like I said, I started sports when I was 8, so when you look at from 8 all the way to 22, that's a large part of my life during that time. And now to go from that to a job of a 9 to 5 or whatever it is that you may be doing, this is why you need to have at the foundation, once again, who am I? What's my purpose? And when you are a professional athlete or a collegiate athlete, you're on a stage, you're on a platform, you're still having this strong influence. So don't allow the sport to be your end all. And I'll speak from my personal experience. Once I understood closer and closer what my purpose was, and I started to identify that through what I was experiencing when I was overseas. I helped people. I saw the achievements. I saw the love and the energy that I got back from that, and I loved that feeling. So in my eyes, I thought I should be playing professional football. But in reality, when I started to understand more and more about myself through my purpose, it was to try to help as many individuals find their purpose and what they should be doing in life. And that's what motivated me. And it just happens to be in the fitness industry. But if I wasn't in the fitness industry, I could still find a way to help people. My wife, she had a hard time. So she's an '08 Olympian, and she ran track. You know, her deal was she has a master's degree in communications. She's worked for, you know, Fortune 500 companies. Like, so her talent and her gift was like, well, man, I want to create something on my own. And she ended up doing that. But at the same time, she still has this fire in her to want to run. And now she's found a way to speak to that fire through empowering females across the world. The highest participatory sport in the world is track for females. And so she created her brand, Track Girls. And now she's actually, as of recently, she's partnering with Lifetime with a performance center, which you guys will probably end up hearing about in the months to come. But this is the thing. She gets to be on this platform to do exactly what her purpose is to empower as many individuals as possible. So what I would say is that transition it's always going to be challenging because you don't want to give up what you have done for so long. But a perfect example would be LeBron James. He, at some point in time, will leave the hardwood. But, I mean, look what the dude is doing. If you look at Blaze Pizza, if you look at I Promise School that he recently just opened, he's creating opportunities. He's creating a legacy, and he's giving back. Remember what I said happiness is? Gratitude, giving back, and creating these deep, meaningful relationships. So that's the true definition of what your purpose should bring happiness. And when you look at what you're doing in your sports, great. You're making a lot of people happy because you're allowing your team to win. But when you're done with your sport, how many more people can you continue to make happy? So that's how I would make that transition happen.
Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, the freedom that you have to actually perform better when your identity has been disassociated from only being the basketball player, the football player, the hockey player, the baseball player is tremendous. And I love what LeBron's platform is, you know, and how he's strategically thinking down the road of, you know, he's setting himself up for after sports, right? With uninterrupted, and just what I love is how he's using his platform to allow others to share their messages. And he's really been an incredible example of, I don't care who you are, you can argue whether or not, you know, who's the greatest basketball player. But when we look back, I think it's going to be a really hard argument to say who had the greatest impact on a generation. So it's exciting to see what LeBron's doing. Two final questions. This is we didn't talk a lot about investing on this particular podcast, but one of the questions that we always ask is, what's the best or most worthwhile investment that you've made? And it could be investment of time, it could be of money, it could be of effort. What comes to mind?
Time. Oh man, time with family. The older I get, the more it makes sense to me. When you're a kid, you don't really understand time. You know, you see your dad, your mom, for those fortunate enough that still have them living, and it's just like, yo, this is awesome. And as I get older and I'm starting to get into that parenting age with where they were my age when they were raising us, it's amazing. But at the same time, it's like, man, the clock is ticking. So you're making the most out of the time that you have with your family. So my mom, my dad, my mother-in-law, father-in-law, my sister, like, I think we take time for granted. It's the one thing that you really cannot get back. So you got to make the most out of everything. And then whatever happens during that time, good or bad, you take that experience, like I said earlier, and you learn from it. So time invested into family is the most precious thing that I would say that I get the most return on. The smile from my kids, love and time from my wife, the phone calls from my mom and dad and my sister, like, dude, those are priceless. So time with family.
Yeah. Great answer. Well, we'll end up closing with that question. But as far as if people want to connect with you, I'm still lucky enough to be on the group text message where I get some knowledge dropped on me and some motivation every once in a while. But how can people learn about Alpha? Are there ways to connect with you or Alpha in the local communities? Where can we find you guys?
Yeah, easy one I would say is if you guys are on Instagram at Alpha Training, just spelled out just like that, Alpha, ALPHA Training, TRAINING, Alpha Training. It's a lot of content on there, guys. But if you go to any local Lifetime, you can learn a lot more about our brand. WeAreAlpha.com is a great site. So those are great platforms to learn more about Alpha. My personal account, you guys, Freezy30 on Instagram. So those are some great outlets for you guys if you want to reach out. Like I said, I love connecting with people. And like I said, I love giving back and helping out wherever I can. So let me know, reach out. I'm here.
Yeah, and for the audience, I'll obviously put all of these in the show notes so you guys have the direct links. And David, it's been fun. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and congrats on all the success. And there's no doubt we know we're going to continue to see Alpha grow and see you do big things. So thanks for the time.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Remember, guys, mind right, body right, purpose-driven life. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for listening to the Athlete CEO podcast. I hope you enjoyed our show today and are ready to take action on the advice from today's episode. Our goal with the Athlete CEO podcast is to make it the go-to resource for athletes and entrepreneurs looking to take their game to the next level. Love the show? You have any suggestions on how we can improve? We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, tweet, and share your thoughts. We do our best to read every single one. We'll see you next week with another world-class episode.